What's that? Hey, kids, here we are, and here we go. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. May I be the first to say a good afternoon, just after high noon, 12:06 to be precise. My name is Matt Murphy, and conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I just saw something moments before. I like to peel back the curtain, especially when we're on location like this. And we're at Timms Ford Lake, Twin Creeks Marina. More on all of that coming up in just a moment. But I like to peel back the curtain just a little bit as to the surrounds and what we got going on. And, as always, when we're doing these events out and about, and we've done two of them this week. The first one was over at Hermitage Golf Course for the Rudy Kalis golf event, and then we ended that deal on Monday with this on Friday at Twin Creeks Marina. And never you fear, for those of you coming for the content, coming for the fire, I've got the content, I got the fire, don't worry about that. But we have always got Kirby out here. Kirby's engineer extraordinaire on site, and CJ is normally in place. He was Monday and he is today. And hello, CJ. You can come meet these guys if you stop by and see us. Like seconds before we go on air, CJ shows me this tackling dummy that at Titans camp. The Titans are in camp now, and everybody's excited about the new head coach and the new players, and there's just a lot of excitement surrounding the Tennessee Titans, and our brethren over at the Zone talking all about that. And he shows me this tackling dummy with this shirt on it, is a Titans shirt, and I'm like, oh look, there's two tackling dummies. And he said no, and I said no, there's one tackling dummy and there's one right behind it. No, the one right behind it was Kirby. Your head looks exactly like the head on the tackling dummy. And Kirby is shaking his head like, you got it, pal. So if you want to come see the tackling dummy head, we're out at Twin Creeks Marina until 3 o'clock today, or they kick us off the radio, whichever comes first. That's at Timms Ford Lake. I would note that the last time that we were out here, I misspoke the lake's name. For the first hour that we were here. It's one of my favorite stories to tell now when I'm out and about because people remember it. I called it Tim Ford's Lake. I thought the guy's name was Tim Ford, and this was his lake. Someone said, well, no, the river was here first, as if that explained everything. And I thought, well, it was Tim Ford's River, and now it's Tim Ford's Lake. No, that's not at all what it was. The Ford being a way to traverse the river, the Tims were a family of people that owned the Ford, and so it is Timms Ford Lake. You all knew that last time, and I know it now. Welcome to your Friday. It's July 26th. It's the last Friday in July in 2024. How about that? I mean, time is just cooking right on by. You can find us on the air, obviously, 99.7 FM. We'd love for you to follow us on all of the social media platforms. I'll get to that in a moment. But on radio, we're at 99.7 from Southern Kentucky to Northern Alabama and all points in between, including beautiful Winchester, Tennessee. You can also find us on your on your platforms, your streaming platforms, I should say. Wherever you stream news or music or information, you can stream us, podcasts included. Go to Supertalk 99.7 WTN on your streaming platform. And then, of course, there's Supertalk TV, which, even though we're on location, it is up and running, much to the chagrin of those of you who like to see pretty things on your television or pretty things on your computer. There's me here. Not very pretty, but we're here anyway. Supertalk TV up on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It's episode 619 of our gatherings today, and it is Locks for Trump Day 146. My commitment to the future president of the United States, I will not cut my hair until it's official, and he is president-elect, and it's day 146. Of that. So Belkay's back at home base. He's controlling the experience, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible. He refuses to participate on the television side of things, but occasionally he'll pipe in on radio, like, I don't know, right now. Hello. How's it going?
Good. It's Friday, man. Ready. Glad it's here.
You got big plans this weekend? Big sleep?
A lot of sleep.
That's a big weekend for you, right? So for most people, when they don't have anything to, and I think I can safely say this. Bell, you pipe in when I've said anything wrong. You ready? For most people, if they've got plans, like a Hootie and the Blowfish concert or go into the Bitcoin conference. That's a big weekend. That's a great weekend. That's a good thing. Mm-hmm. If they've got nothing to do, they're just kind of like, wasted weekend. It's quite the opposite with Mr. K.
Yes.
If Bell has nothing to do, that's a great weekend.
Oh, yeah.
If he's got to go to the grocery store to shop for, or whatever you
anything.
do with the pet food store to get baby bunnies for the cobra, then that's a pain, right? And,
yes.
Are you still feeding spicy baby rabbits?
No. It's large mice, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And she has to be. You have to keep her fed regularly, or she'll target the cats.
Well, that's true. That's true. And you got to keep that friendship going.
Yeah.
You can't have animosity amongst the critters. So speaking of the critters, that's you, Murphy Minions, out there in the listening audience. You can dial us up at 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. And you're also invited to be a part of the show via the membersnutrition.com super text line. That is up and running, obviously, at the same telephone number, 615-737-9986. Let us know how we're doing. So the last time we were planning on being here, there was a slight miscommunication, and we won't get into all of that, but I'm glad that everything's working A-OK today on this Friday, July 26th. We're gonna have some fun today with Fry Jay. Jay St. Clair, believe it or not, has done a deep dive onto the history of czars in the United States of America. Not beyond, but right here in the good old USA. We've had czars before. We've had czars since, according to St. Clair, the Roosevelt administration. And at least as of yesterday on your Wikipedia, Kamala Harris was listed as a czar.
No. I'm jumping in because you're saying something wrong. She was not the border czar. She was never given that title. You're
making things up.
You're making up right wing points.
Yesterday it was funny listening to Karine Jean-Pierre, a.k.a. Jean-Claude, try to have it both ways. So Peter Ducey started going after her, and I heard Chris Hand play a little bit of this audio where he's like, wait a minute, she's not the – she was never the border – he's like, who's handing out these talking points? I don't know. You'll have to ask the Harris campaign. She was never the border czar. We never had a border czar. Meh, meh, meh. What are my two rules for liberals? The two rules for liberals, and I include the mainstream media in this process, but the two biggest takeaways is they think you're dumb, because they do. They think middle America's dumb. They think Tennessee's dumb. They think any conservatives are dumb. They think you are stupid enough that if they tell a lie long enough and loud enough that you'll actually believe it. Number two is that they always overplay their hand, and they are in the process of overplaying this Kamala Harris hand right now. More on that throughout the course of the show and, through the course of our lives until November, frankly. But Jean-Claude was at the podium yesterday, and Ducey's like, who's handing out this stuff, saying that she wasn't the border czar? We were all there, and that's never happened. That was never the case, and I don't know who's handing that out. And then she proceeded to talk about how wonderful things were going at the border. So just think for yourself for a moment. So we all know what we saw. They're hanging on the nomenclature. They're hanging on the idea that there was never a press release that said that she was, quote, border czar. We saw Joe Biden say she's going to handle the border. We saw Joe Biden say send her to Guatemala and to Nicaragua and to Ecuador and to handle those root causes behind why people are coming here. We saw all of that. So the only thing they can hang on is, well, she was never the border czar. There's never been a border czar. What do you do? You know exactly what we're talking about. You know exactly what we saw. So on one hand, they're refusing to accept any premise that involves Kamala Harris having any involvement in the southern border whatsoever. Okay? That's they've been doing that for the last 48 hours. We talked about it at length yesterday. Dan Mandis talked about it. Brian Wilson talked about it. Chris Hand talked about it. We've all talked about it. All the major networks. Well, non-leftist networks. And then yesterday, Karine Jean-Pierre, Jean-Claude, then proceeds to tell us how awesome the border is going. And how the numbers are down 55% in this category and 42% in that category and 15% in that category. So let me just ask you to use the brain that God gave you, to use the home learning that mama and daddy or grandma and grandpa gave you when you were getting raised up. If the border numbers were so good, do you think they'd be running away from Kamala Harris being in control of it? The presidential candidate for the Democrats, the presumptive nominee. So if everything was so great at the southern border as Karine Jean-Pierre presented yesterday in her press briefing, then why is Kamala Harris not taking credit for it? They're having it both ways right before your very eyes. They're going, oh, everything's great. Oh, Kamala Harris had nothing to do with it, because we know you really know everything's not great. We're going to say everything's great. Simultaneously, she's going to run away from this subject because we know that you know the truth. We know you see with your own eyeballs what's been going on over the past 3 years. And so while we're just going to lie to you to your face, we're going to also disavow. Well, we're going to lie to your face twice. That's what we're going to do. We're going to tell you everything's fine. Simultaneously, we're going to tell you Kamala Harris had nothing to do with it. Just like they are attempting to tell you that Kamala Harris had nothing to do with Afghanistan, just like she had nothing to do with the defund the police movement, just like she had nothing to do with the Minnesota-Minneapolis Freedom Fund, which was set up and designed to bail out those rabble-rousers, those rioters, those people that were destroying cities all across Minneapolis and beyond. It had nothing to do with that. And oh, by the way, while we're at it, she never said that she wanted health care for all. She never said that she wanted to support Bernie Sanders in his push for socialized medicine. She never said that she supported the Palestinians over Israel. What are you, insane? What are you relying on empirical data that has existed over the last 4 years, almost 4 years of her vice presidency? Or are you going to believe us now? Because the project is on, and here's what we're going to call it. Because I have a brand new, I'm unveiling. Hey, Bell, can I get a horn for this? Thank you. We were calling her Kamala the Coronated. One more. Because she's had no votes. No one's voted on Kamala. No one's voted for Kamala for president of the United States. Nobody. But I've decided that, thank you, but I've decided that we're going to call her something else. We're going to call her Candidate Zero. Thank you. And this project is called the Reclamation of Candidate Zero. Yeah, there it goes. All right.
I don't know if this goes anything like, Save Joe went. This is going to go down in flames.
Well, that's true. We had Operation Save Joe, womp, 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 that did not go so well. We were trying to save Joe Biden as the candidate for the Democrat Party. That went over like a fart in a car. So now we have the Reclamation of Candidate Zero. Now, this is not our project. This is the project on the part of the mainstream media and the Democrat Party. Because while Kamala Harris has had 0 people vote for her for president of the United States of America, one could make an argument that she's had plenty of people vote for her in the past for reasons, right? She ran a campaign for United States Senate and won that campaign for United States Senate in California. She ran as the running mate of Joe Biden, and I suppose that after her disastrous attempt to become the presidential nominee in 2019, and she limped out of that race after getting destroyed by Tulsi Gabbard, I suppose that one could make the case once Biden pigeonholed himself into having to pick a female and then ultimately having to pick a black female because he said as much on the campaign trail, that I'm imagining maybe there are some people that said, yeah, I was, a little hesitant to vote for Joe, but I like Kamala. I mean, believe it or not, I think there's like 14 people in the United States of America that said that one day. Yes, thank you, Kamala. So imagining that, I could suppose that there have been people that have voted for her in the past, but no one's ever voted for her for president of the United States. She dropped out before the primaries of 2020, and she was not a part of the primary process in 2024. Now, she was the presumptive vice presidential selection of Joe Biden, but there was nothing preventing Joe Biden from selecting someone else. So nobody's voted for her. Now, these same individuals that claim that they believe in democracy and they believe in the democratic process circumvented the democratic process pretty damn quickly, like in a week. So we went from Joe is our guy, Joe is cogent, Joe is with it, Joe's all good. I mean, It's July. I just realized something, and I know I've got a break, Bill. It's July 26th. Less than a month ago, we had that debate. Less than a month, less than 30 days ago, 1 month ago, we all gathered in Murfreesboro, wondering what to expect. Many of us, and I include myself in this number, many of us said, well, Joe's going to get hopped up. Hello, sir. How are you? Oh, God bless you. I appreciate that. I like that dog, too. Hello, y'all. What's his name? Her name's Penny. Penny? Hey, Penny. Tell Penny to come by sometime. I'll give her pardon me, I'm meeting some good folks. I like that shirt, too. He's got a 45th President Trump, Make America Great Again. Hey, Penny, don't be scared. It's okay. I got Penny on the hook. All of you, hundreds of thousands of listeners have to wait because Penny and I have to commune. All right, Penny. Good girl. Thank y'all. And that's a new one. We got a Trump Vance shirt in the house. That's good. I like that. Well, I'm Matt. Y'all come back and see me. Y'all going to eat? Yeah. Thank you for the sticker too. I think it's a sticker. It says, I stand with Israel. It's got an American flag that blends right into an Israeli flag. That's good stuff. That's what it's all about. So I'll tell you what, I'll reset my thought process and we'll continue talking about the reclamation of Candidate Zero, which is what's going on. It's not just the Borders Are stuff. It's a lot of stuff that they have to repair regarding her recent record. We'll discuss it today. Plus,
hey,
yeah, Bell.
We need to do the title.
Oh, yeah. I got two things. I always forget when I'm on location. So I got the title to do, and I got to tell you who's coming up. In addition to Jay St. Clair, we have the Republican National Committee Chairman, Michael Watley, who is in town for the Bitcoin conference. He's going to be on the line with us at about 12:35 this afternoon, so we're excited about that. We'll talk to him about why he's in town. We'll talk to him about the incredibly successful Milwaukee conference, the platform of the Republican Party, and the candidacy of Donald Trump. We're doing all of that on episode 619 of Our Proceedings, and 619, our episode number, is entitled, Bell.
Matt Murphy exposes long-term FBI malfeasance with the possible special guest, Bob. Libertarian Lunch, noon to 3, live from Twin Creeks.
Do you know how badly I want to see Bob again?
Hey, Bob, if you're listening,
it's a little bit of a sick.
You need to head out to Twin Creeks, have a conversation with Matthew.
I am desperate to have a conversation with Bob about his belief in the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the CIA. One way or the other, we're going to have a conversation with you until 3 o'clock this afternoon, and it's all happening on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu set to meet today in Florida. And a Nashville man has been charged in a shooting that left his toddler son dead. We'll have those stories at 12:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm just finishing up a fiery X post. I'm trying to call it an X post because, Elon says he wants to call it X, so I'm trying to get away from saying that I tweet because it's not the tweeter anymore, right? It's the X machine, and on the X machine, you throw the X post out.
Just compromise and call it Twix.
Yeah, where's my bird sound, by the way, every time I mention it? Huh? Mr. Man, thank you. That's what we're supposed to be doing. What's up, brother? So Phil Williams, local partisan hack, Phil Williams of Channel 5, is defending this concept that Kamala Harris was never the, quote, border czar, end quote. And what is that? Oh, it's just water, ice water with lemon. That looks great. Or ice water with lime. That looks great. I like that. Thank you. Phil Williams is defending this concept that Kamala Harris was never the border czar. Now, forget the wording for a moment. But here's the thing. We all know what she was. We all know what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden could not handle this issue and needed to be perceived as handling this issue. We saw a flood of illegal alien activity coming across the southern border, a flood of activity that wasn't going on during Donald Trump. Let's just back all this up for a minute. And because of that, and because the Biden administration had no intention, no wherewithal, nor ability to handle it, he needed to do something performative to seem like he was handling it. And that was, well, I'm going to have my vice president go down to Guatemala and El Salvador and Mexico and Honduras and have a conversation with these people about the flood of illegal activity that's going on at the southern border. As a matter of fact, Vice President Kamala Harris wrote on the 24th of March, 2021, POTUS just asked me to lead our diplomatic work with Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. To address the situation at the southern border, we have to address the root causes of migration. It won't be easy work, but it's necessary. To that, Phil Williams responded, such desperation, people think they can just ignore words that don't fit their narratives. This was posted with the yellow highlights in response to my post. I added the pink, and his pink was to highlight the countries in question. So what they're trying to say is that it was her job to deal with these other countries, not to deal with the issues at the southern border. My question to Phil Williams, and I just posed it, was she put in charge of mitigating illegal border crossings or not? Yes or no? Yes or no? I mean, I know, Phil, you're a partisan hack, but this is pathetic. Believe it or not, if there is like a millimeter's worth of space, this is actually beneath you. This is actually beneath you. More coming up in a moment. More coming up with Michael Watley, the RNC chair. He's in town for good reason. Bitcoin conference. Trump's coming into town tomorrow. We'll talk to him next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 12:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly cloudy, 82 degrees. A full forecast for your weekend is coming up. Former President Trump, he's set to host the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today at Mar-a-Lago down in Florida. ABC's Catherine Falders has more.
Netanyahu and Trump both realize that, of course, there has to be some sort of a good relationship, if you will, if Trump were to win the presidency. So it will be hard to say, because we won't be there for the meeting. There won't be any coverage of it. We will get a statement, probably from both parties, Trump first, following that meeting.
Now, back in Nashville, a toddler died after what is currently being described as an accidental shooting in East Nashville Wednesday night. Just before 9 p.m., police reported that 3-year-old Aideen Pruitt suffered a gunshot wound to his head. He was rushed to Vanderbilt Children's Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Aideen's mother at the time told police she was in the kitchen when she heard a loud pop come from the bedroom. On Thursday night, detectives charged 23-year-old DeAndre Pruitt, the little boy's father, with reckless homicide, child neglect, and evidence tampering for Wednesday night's incident. According to a press release from Metro Police, DeAndre told authorities that he put a pistol on the floor of a bedroom, but he didn't realize that his son was in that bedroom. The little boy picked up the gun and shot himself in the head. Pruitt arranged to surrender to police at a local church later this afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, and that is when he was taken into custody. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 12:38, almost 12:39. Already running late on the Libertarian Lunchtime Hour, the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7. We're at Twin Creeks Marina, located on Timms Ford Lake. Perfect for relaxation, perfect for adventure. They're offering lodging on waterfront cottages. They've got an incredible full-service marina with rental boats available. It's a great place to have a great weekend, and I'm going to tell you more about this joint coming up in just a little bit. Bell, do we have the chairman on the line?
We do not.
We do not. Okay, so
I'm assuming they were supposed to call us since I wasn't.
Yeah, that is a fact. I think that's true. I do have a backup number. I'm going to send you I gave them the hotline. But I'm going to go ahead and send you this backup number,
okay.
Bell, and tell you what, I'll pop this over to you, and we'll get it going on. You can dial us up at 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. You can also hit us up on the membersnutrition.com super text line, where we invite you to participate in the show that way as well. John writes in and says, Matt, do you agree with my previous analogy? Here's the analogy, or also known as analogy. Biden poured the gasoline and lit the match to burn down the house. Then he made Kamala the fire chief and czar in the fire department, and she went to the match distributor's office once. 3.5 years later, Joe grabbed a water hose, sprayed a couple of places, fire reduced. Kamala was never the fire czar. The fire still rages. Yeah, I mean, I do, John. So if we look at it from 50,000 feet, right, which is something our guest in the 1 o'clock hour, my best friend, life consultant, legal correspondent, and gambling buddy, Jay St. Clair, reminds me that if you want to get a good view of something, you got to go up in the air. You got to look at it from way far away, and then you can start drilling down and understand what you're looking at when you drill down on something. And Donald Trump had done so much to repair the damage done during the Obama administration and frankly, just the ignoring of the situation when it came to the southern border. I mean, Trump tackled the southern border. He made it a part of his campaign. He made it a part of his purpose to get a handle on that. I mean, build the wall. It was a 3-word mantra of his campaign throughout the course of 2015 into 2016. And then he actually began doing it. Even the mainstream media has to give him credit for the almost 500 miles of border wall was actually constructed, and he had to deal with 2 years of resistance from the Democrats in the House of Representatives. They didn't want any of it. And so now those that are saying, well, he didn't really build all of that, those were the same entities that were trying to prevent him every step of the way from building any of it, much less all of it. And he was effective. Simply by putting up the don't come in sign, simply by putting up the stop sign, he was effective in convincing people from very far away in Guatemala and Nicaragua and Honduras and other parts of South America and places beyond. He did enough to convince them that there was no point in coming, there was no point in making the trek, because if you get to Mexico, he's not going to let you in anyway. The stay in Mexico policy worked. And you can see the decrease in border crossings as a result of it working, and as evidence, empirical data that demonstrates that it works. And now you can see the dramatic increase in the number of border crossings on the southern border as a result of the Biden administration. So while they try to spin that it's down from their heights, not from Trump numbers, from their numbers, from their pinnacle. And they take credit for that. Let's suspend that conversation, although I would imagine that our next guest might want to continue along those lines of thought. It's such a pleasure to have him with us today. He is the chairman of the RNC, Michael Whatley. He was placed in that position, appointed to that position, voted into that position in March of this year, along with Laura Trump. And he joins us today to talk about coming into Nashville, Tennessee, the most successful convention that just wrapped up last week. Amongst other things, it is our pleasure to welcome Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley to the show. Chair Whatley, how are you?
We're doing great. It is really good to be on with you.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Tell us what brings you into our part of the world, Michael.
Well, it's a really interesting conversation with a bunch of Bitcoin engineers and companies that we're going to be in town with. The president is, very focused on making sure that he has an understanding of the Bitcoin world and what the future is going to look like. And it's just an opportunity for us to continue our national conversation with every American voter and every American family to talk to them about the kitchen table issues that really are driving this election cycle.
I don't have you on, Chairman Whatley, to pat your back for the full 10 or 15 minutes that we have a conversation going today, but I got to do a little bit of it after last week. What an incredible event. What an incredible moment in time, not just for the Republican Party. Of course, we focus on the party and the party platform, but for all of the United States of America. I've been doing this 25 years. I talked to a lot of people that have been doing it longer. I don't know of anyone that has seen a better organized, a more focused convention than what we saw in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. What's your assessment?
Well, I appreciate that, and I agree that the team and the president did an amazing job of putting together what I think is the best convention we've ever had. When you think about it from, all of the speakers that we heard, including the great Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, and the families, the real Americans that we heard was very, very important, obviously, from everybody in the Trump family. And then J.D. Vance, introducing himself to the country, and President Trump met the moment. He had an opportunity coming out of that assassination attempt just a few days before to be there. When he made his first appearance Monday night, there was not a dry eye in the place, including mine. And then when he had the opportunity to speak on Thursday, it was not just to the people in the hall, but it was to every American all across the country, and it was a real unity opportunity where we're talking about how we want to make America better for every family.
You spoke as you took over the chairmanship for the RNC about how important it was to go to our different states, various communities, and impart how the get out to vote needs to happen locally and statewide, and in conjunction with supporting the sanctity of the vote. And I think it's an effort to let Republicans know that while we might not like early voting, while we might not like some states that have a mail-in process, we need to embrace the system that is in each state in order to encourage those like-minded Trump supporters to get to the polls whenever they go and to vote for their man and to vote for the Trump-Vance ticket. Speak to the listeners in and around Middle Tennessee about that, Chairman.
We expect this election cycle over 50% of the vote is going to be cast before Election Day. We're going to have states where it's all mail. We're going to have states that allow early voting. Obviously, we've got, same-day voting, Election Day voting that's going to be very important for the Republicans. But if over half the votes are cast before Election Day, we need to talk to those voters. We need to set up a national early vote program to be able to talk to everybody. As the president has said, it is great if you want to vote early. It's great if you want to vote by mail. It's great if you want to vote on Election Day. The key is you have to make a plan. You've got to execute that plan. You've got to deliver that vote. And once you voted, we want you to go out and talk to your friends and your family members and your colleagues and your coworkers, and we've got to get them to go vote, because at the end of the day, we're not going to win with just Republican votes. We're going to have a majority of all votes cast. So we really do want to reach out to every American family.
I know you're focused on your messaging. You're focused on the Republican Party platform and the candidates that you support nationwide. But I have to ask you about your opponents over at the DNC. What is going on over there? I mean, I can't imagine the news cycle that would be happening right now if the glove were on the other hand and it was the RNC trying to figure out how to cobble together support for a candidate who has yet to receive a single primary vote. Most of us understood that Joe Biden was, I like to say, past the winter season of his public service. That's the nice way that I try to put it, Michael. But what do you make of this idea that the party elites have simply decided to coronate Kamala Harris as the heir apparent to the Biden administration?
it's quite a political split screen. When you think about the unity that we showed in Milwaukee and coming out of Milwaukee with our convention, we are the most unified that the Republican Party has been in generations. And we're talking right now about making sure that we're reaching out to every American. And the Democrats don't even have a formal nominee. They have no idea who the vice president candidate is going to be. They're in complete disarray. And, there is no amount of whitewashing that Kamala Harris, the Democrats, or the mainstream media can do that is going to try and show that they have this under control. They're just a couple of weeks out from their convention. And I can tell you, it's a big lift to have a convention of that magnitude. And we would have never been able to do that if we were not all on one page and singing off the same song sheet.
I don't know what the role of the RNC is in helping the campaign with regard to debate scheduling, but I know that former President Trump has stepped out and said, very artfully I might add, look, I'm not going to agree to debate anybody until I know who I'm going to debate. What's the role of the RNC in trying to set some of those things up, if any, and what are your thoughts about Trump saying, look, you can tell me who the presumptive nominee is all you want. Until you come out with a presidential candidate and a vice presidential candidate, I'll let you know then when I'm ready and willing to debate.
Yeah, the president's approach is absolutely the right approach. He is absolutely willing to debate. He wants to debate. He correctly views these debates as a fantastic opportunity to directly communicate with the American people. When you think about that first debate with Joe Biden, it was not a good night for Joe. I don't think anybody's going to say that it was. But importantly, it was a very good night for Donald Trump. It was a great night for him. He hit his marks. He got his message out to the American people. And you notice the press never came out and said there were two losers. They never came out and said it was a draw. They came out and said Donald Trump won that debate. And that's very important for him to be able to hit his marks there. He obviously hit his marks very well at our convention, and he's hitting his marks at every single campaign event that he's doing across the country.
Our guest is RNC Chair Michael Whatley. He's in town for the Bitcoin conference, amongst other things, rallying the state of Tennessee behind our man, Donald Trump, and Trump Vance as a ticket. Two final questions, and I'll let you go. I know you're so busy. I know it's one of your primary responsibilities is to fundraise, to gather money. It takes money in order to get the word out about the policies, the platforms, and the positions of the presidential candidate. How is that going, Michael?
It's going fantastic. Since President Trump became our presumptive nominee back in March, we've raised over $400 million. We are going to absolutely have the resources that we need to get our message out to every family and every voter across the country.
And final question for you, because we've not been able to see him personally or to speak with him personally, and I know you have, considering what happened 2 Saturdays ago in Butler, Pennsylvania. How's Donald Trump doing?
I got to tell you, the strength of that man, the resilience of that man is absolutely astounding. And when he got up off that stage and raised his fist in the air and let everybody know that he was okay, I think that's, it shows you the measure of the man. And when he came into that arena on Monday of the convention, just 2 days after being shot. He wasn't supposed to be there till Thursday, but he wanted to get there on Sunday to show up for the first night of the convention to let everybody know that he was there. I can tell you there was not a dry eye in the place, including mine. And, it is a remarkable testimony to the man that he is willing to wake up every single day and fight for every American family. You think about this is a guy who had an unbelievably successful business career. He's got a great family, has a great life, and he does not need this. But he really, truly loves America, and he wants it to be better. And I think that he is happiest when he is on the road and he is working. And, I was with him just yesterday in Charlotte, North Carolina, for a massive rally that we had. And, it is important to him to be able to be with the crowd, to be with everybody and to let them know why he's doing this. You know, when you talk about that shooting, you talk about the horrific actions that we saw up in Butler, Pennsylvania. It makes you step back and question, why are we doing this? And I know that he had the opportunity to reflect on his race and why he's doing what he's doing. You know, it's because he loves this country and he wants to fight for every family.
Hey, Michael, have you ever played golf with him?
No, sir.
Have you
But I
seen?
tell you what,
Have you seen his golf game with Bryson DeChambeau?
it is absolutely hysterical. It is well worth watching. And I got to tell you, you know, for the man to get a natural eagle just tells you everything.
Well, I tell you, I loved him. I loved every part of him. And I'm like, what? The Lord can't give everybody everything. He's got a golf game at the age of 78, too, in addition to everything else he's got going for him. Well, I encourage people to go watch, and I encourage people to seek you out and seek the platform out. How can folks find out more, those that are interested about the platform and the RNC?
Just go to GOP.com, and we'll get you all the information that they need. And if they want to help with the election on the grassroots side, they can go to TrumpForce47.com. And if they want to help with our election integrity efforts, they can go to ProtectTheVote.com. But we really appreciate all the support that we get in Tennessee, and really appreciate you and your listeners.
Thank you, Michael, for everything. Welcome to Tennessee, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
All right, take care.
Take care. All right, running a little bit late with Michael Watley, the chair of the RNC there. Had to get that Bryson DeChambeau talk in there because if you've not seen it, it's – the man's 78 years old, and he's bombing it down the middle of the fairway. It's 12:55. Quick timeout. Back in a moment. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 2 minutes past 1 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Cloudy and some light rain in the area. 82 degrees. Your weekend weather forecast is coming up. Vice President Kamala Harris getting a major endorsement she's been waiting for. President or former President Barack Obama, I should say, and former First Lady Michelle Obama backing Harris as the presumptive Democratic nominee. Karen Travers has more.
It was notable in his statement last week that he withheld that. He did not say anything publicly on Sunday after President Biden said he was not seeking re-election. But now they say they're all in. They're going to do everything they can to get her through this election and into the Oval Office. And that includes doing events likely after Labor Day and also now starting to do some fundraising for her.
Now on the war on drugs, 2 leaders of the notorious Sinaloa drug cartel have been arrested and are in federal custody. The 2 men, including the son of the infamous drug lord El Chapo, they're facing multiple charges for leading the cartel's criminal operations. ABC's Jack Date reports.
Getting these 2 men in custody is absolutely significant. It's a big deal at the Justice Department. They are very excited about the news that these men are in custody.
Now for a recall of note, the USDA recalling 200,000 pounds of boar's head deli meat that's possibly linked to outbreaks of listeria.
It's the liverwurst. Well, at least it was a sample of liverwurst put out by Boar's Head that was found to be tainted with listeria, a bacteria that's especially dangerous for pregnant women, young children, and the elderly. The sample was taken from a Maryland store, and other deli meat sliced on the same line as it was also pulled. The nation's most recent listeria outbreak has killed at least 2 people and made dozens of others sick.
That is Sherry Preston reporting. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Sit right there. Phil, you can sit right there. Yeah. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress. Hour number 2 cranking up right now. It's about 1:08. Good afternoon. We are in God's country, Winchester, Tennessee, on Timms Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina. Come see us. There's a beautiful There's a beautiful facility here. There's an incredible amount of boats for rent. There's houses. There's cabins for rent. They've got the Drafts and Watercrafts restaurant here, and a lot of good folks coming by and saying hello. We got some folks eating. We got Penny, the dog, Penny, the emotional support dog, right there in the corner. We got Phil that just came by and was telling me about his military service over in Afghanistan. So it's a fun atmosphere.
Any Bob sighting yet? Any Bob sighting?
No, Bob is not here yet. We're looking for Bob. I'm going to get Phil to be my muscle if Bob shows up, y'all. And for those who missed, Bob, the last time we were here, I was going off about the FBI and talking about how you sadly, and I'm saddened to say this, that you can't trust an institution like the FBI anymore. And I'm on record as saying that while I recognize the need for an organization like the FBI, I believe that it has become corrupted from the head, not the tail. There are many great people in the field, many great agents in the field, but sadly the head has corrupted itself so much that I believe it needs to be dismantled and rebuilt in some other image that is not the FBI. And as I'm saying that, this guy walks by me, and he starts yelling at me while I'm on the air that I'm giving misinformation. I don't need to talk about things that I don't know anything about, and I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I was like, well, I'm on radio right now, so if you would like to sit down, you can fill us in with your knowledge. You can thrill us with your acumen. And he declined the invitation. I asked him what his name was. He said it was Bob. Not that we believe that. And apparently Bob was still yelling about me by the time he got to the parking lot. So one way or the other, we'd love to see Bob or you at Twin Creeks Marina in lovely Winchester, Tennessee. So obviously it's at that time. It is 1:09 on a Friday afternoon, and regardless of where we might be, whatever hamlet or village we might be visiting in this beautiful state, it is time, ladies and germs. It's Friday. Not morning, but it is Friday. Our man, my best friend, our legal correspondent, he's a Tennessee guy, went to the University of before he went up north to Yale. He is our legal correspondent. He is the finest legal mind I've ever met. I'm proud to consider him my best friend. He is also my life consultant and gambling buddy. His name is Jay St. Clair. Jay, I just thought of a question for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
How you doing?
You know, if I were any better, I would be Bryson DeChambeau.
I was going to ask you the first question on my list. And by the way, if you have any legal questions for Jay, you're welcome to get them in at 615-737-9986. My first question for you, and I knew the answer before I even asked it, was, have you seen the Bryson DeChambeau YouTube with Donald Trump?
You know, I took the time yesterday and watched it start to finish.
Yep. It's about an hour.
And, you know, Bryson, he's so smart about how to handle all that. And Trump, you know, he's a blowhard guy. He said, you know who I would like to see play golf together? I just thought of this, man. I would pay money to see Donald Trump and our buddy Gerald run in the same golf cart together. But I bet you Trump would give up. He would just say, shut up. Good God, how can you talk more than I can?
What was it Trump said? But here's the thing, though, Jay. I never knew, and look, I love Trump. Everybody knows that. I was a Trump guy from the moment he came down the escalator, right? But I've heard him talk about his golf game. And he is known to perhaps, let's say, exaggerate, right? And so when he talks about
it'd be beautiful. You'd be tired of making birdies if you play golf.
Oh, right. You're going to be tired of winning. We're going to so much winning, right? And so I never knew what to believe about how good his golf. He's 78 years old, and he's popping it down the middle.
No, he was driving the ball 220 yards, right? And made the eagle putt, and his granddaughter, you know, the one that spoke at the convention. Mm-hmm. I don't remember her name. She's the real deal, man. She's a competitive golfer.
Wow.
I mean, She shot rounds in the 60s.
Wow.
Yeah,
well,
so it was
Trump.
Bryson, he was being deferential, right? Again, but it was funny.
Well, I called it. I mean, but you know what? That's what I mean. I like Bryson. I did not start off liking Bryson DeChambeau,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and Bryson has won me, and that's saying something.
Yeah, well, I get it.
But yeah, Trump. You could tell Trump would throw in some politics, and you could tell Bryson was kind of not wanting to go there necessarily.
Yeah, we ain't doing that. I don't want to lose.
Well, we're just playing golf. But they shot a 50 in a scramble. I don't care what tees you're playing from.
Right.
You shot a 50 in a.
It was great. And did you see that thing where Trump makes an eagle putt on a par 4 where he drove the green?
Uh-huh.
And Bryson's going to go over and, high-fiving him or whatever. And Trump just turns around and walks away. And he leaves Bryson hanging. And he looks at the camera and he's cracking up. The guy just made an eagle and he struts off like he's
just walking off. Like it's no big deal, right? He just, natty eagle, whatever.
Yeah, I do it all the time. All the time.
Oh, man. Well, I encourage people to find it on YouTube. It's a little bit difficult. I wouldn't even begin to know how to spell DeChambeau, but if you can find Bryson's YouTube channel, and it's on there. It's The Effort to Break 50. It's pretty good. And I thought it was human. It showed me something, that it's fun to watch him in those moments, but he seems to be the same guy in that golf cart with that camera attached to the front of the golf cart as he is on stage. Because he started talking about the maple trees. You remember that? Do you see those trees over there? They're natural. They're all they're beautiful. The most beautiful trees right here on the golf course. And you could plant them right in the middle of the course. They'd be so beautiful. Drinking a Diet Coke. Well, Jay, I know we have many questions for you. And already they're coming in, the membersnutrition.com super text line. We invite folks to get them in. But I happen to know that you have done a little bit of internet sleuthing on the history of the political czar in the United States of America, huh?
Truth is stranger than fiction, Matt. 21st century's not turned out like I thought it would, Matt. I thought really by now all the lies and deceptions would be gone. It'd be like Star Trek, like the truth is the truth, and we just stick with the truth. And it's just amazing what has happened to the press, where they just absolutely deny unassailable facts.
Well, and crazy. They do this interesting thing, and I wanted to ask you about it. If this is well known in legal circles, where they get the word that I thought of earlier in the week was the nomenclature, right? They get hung up. Right. So because Joe Biden never said the two words border czar,
right,
we're supposed to believe that he did not put Kamala Harris in charge
of the board.
No,
that's right. That's what I do for a living, man. The nomenclature. That's what I do for a living. I can talk to you for hours about this. I've been in front of juries in week-long trials where we're parsing two words in an employee handbook.
Right.
So, yeah, I know all about this. And, yes, you're exactly right. That's what the press does. It's what politicians do. It's what lawyers do. Every now and then it's what radio talk show hosts do.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, look, words mean things.
That's right.
And so if the Democrats now want to hang on this idea that he never called her the border czar, well, fine. Well, did he put her in charge of the illegal migration that was coming across the southern border?
Yeah.
And
or
now
was she the point person? Or is she the point person?
Right. Was she the point person? Yeah. And and obviously she was, but it's obvious that they are. We live in a day and age where the media has decided that there is no ramification for being clearly in one camp or another.
Oh, no, they're just absolutely boldly party. But it's nothing new, right? It's going back to like the yellow journalism of the early 20th century. they kind of faked it there for a while, from about the 50s to the 70s, where they try to fake being impartial. But prior to that, the press was never impartial before they met. I mean, they've always been partisan. And now we're just kind of back to the origins of it.
Well, we've got a lot of you're right on target, by the way, on that. We got a lot of questions coming in. Here's what I want to do, Jay, with your permission. We'll take a short time out, and then we'll crank up some of the legal questions going on the super text line. There's one about Camp Lejeune that has been asked. Someone has asked the question. I can't wait to get this answer. Would Jay St. Clair marry an attorney? I'm very curious as to Jay's answer to that question, plus many, many others. It's 19 after the hour. Matt Murphy Show from Twin Creeks Marina. Come by and see us in Winchester, Tennessee. We'll be here until 3 o'clock at Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm starting to lean, and
Earthquakes and wildfires. Well, that's the topic of the upcoming newscast. You'll hear it at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, having some great conversation out here at Twin Creeks Marina. Would love to see you. Come by and see us. We're here till just after 3 o'clock. A lot of folks gathering together, getting on pontoon boats and going out on Timms Ford Lake. It's beautiful out here, let me tell you. And every time, I've been down here a few times, and I'll be down here plenty more. And every time I come down, people from around Winchester hit me up and say, would you please stop telling people in Nashville and the surrounding areas that we exist? Because they're like, we're full. I'm like, no, I got to tell everybody about y'all. And so I'm enjoying the conversation, and I hope you come by and see us. Meantime, we got a great conversation going on with our man Jay St. Clair, my legal correspondent, and soon-to-be gambling buddy. Are we gonna check out some real estate next weekend, Jay? Is that right?
Yeah, well, we got some surveying work that needs to be done. Yeah. I think 2 days. Yeah.
A couple of days of real estate survey. You got to check out land. You got to really know the land to assess it, to evaluate it. We'll do that for a couple of days, and then we might go to an investment seminar or two. That's the thing, Jay. We try to present what we do during our weekends in Tunica, Mississippi, the way that it is. And Bell just hates on us. I don't understand why that is. But I don't understand.
Bell hadn't been around lawyers as much as you have, Matt. He does not understand the art of obfuscation.
What the first half of that comment is true, the second half is not.
He might not have been around lawyers, but he's been around BS artists. But I repeat myself. Jay, I'm going to ask you one of the easier questions you'll get, and then I'm going to go to the membersnutrition.com super text line. So I've saved this question for you. Because you and I have talked about this before, the difference between a general election and a primary election. And so folks are asking me, Matt, how is this what the Democrats are doing not illegal? Could voters not sue because their vote has been disenfranchised? Because we're told almost 15 million people, Jay, went to the polls and voted for Biden. Right. And then Biden, for no reason other than they decided to push him out, Biden's no longer the nominee, and here comes Kamala, who has had 0 votes in the primary process. And so folks are saying, hey, is this not disenfranchising my vote? What would you say to that, Jay?
I would say, actually, they did not vote for Joe Biden. They actually voted for delegates. Mm-hmm. People don't really know that or understand that. But in a primary election, that's entirely run by each party. They can have their own rules. So technically, you're actually voting for a delegate in the primary election. It may have the candidate's name there, but the way that really works is you're voting for the delegate who have pledged themselves to that candidate. Under the Democratic Party rules, I think probably the Republicans too, candidates are released from their pledge, or delegates are released from their pledge if the candidate releases it. And it's it's a version of the golden rule, man. He who has the gold makes the rule. And so it's an internal Democratic Party process. They've written the rules. They can interpret the rules and apply the rules the way they want to. Totally different in a general election. That's where all the laws apply. But here it's just the internal Democratic Party rule.
Right. So, it's a party function. They set up their own rules. They have an escape hatch that if the candidate decides that they don't want any part of this, it releases those delegates. So when you vote for the delegates, as you so well put, those delegates are pledged to the individual candidate. But according to those rules, if the candidate says, I'm out, then those delegates are then free. The delegates that you voted for are still going to vote, but they're free to vote.
Right. That's who got elected are the delegates.
Right. And it kind of exposes the fallacy, at least in the primaries, that it's one person, one vote, and it's kind of a direct type of democratic process. It's not, but
hey, Matt, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, you can jump in
people
anytime
also need to remember that primaries have absolutely no relationship to the elections based on the Constitution. They are not a constitutional component in any way, shape, or form. These are created by the parties for their own benefit.
Dang, Bell, where'd you go to law school?
Yale.
Where'd you go to law
school?
It's never not funny.
I had a policeman ask me that one time, and I just said, probably the same place you did.
How'd that work out, Jim?
Not so good.
Yeah, I bet it didn't.
Well, you said that exactly right, Bill.
Jay, we've got a number of folks asking questions. Let's start with the easy one. Jay, would you ever marry a lawyer? That's a question. That is a legit question.
Describe her.
She looks like Dolly Parton in 9 to 5.
Absolutely.
We'll get on a more serious.
I know a lot of lawyers that are married lawyers, and they seem to work it out. But one of my bestest lawyers that worked for me, she was married to a lawyer, and they had 4 kids. And I asked her one time, well, when do you buy groceries? Because they both work really hard. She said 2 o'clock in the morning at Walmart. I said, well, that sounds about right. But yeah, I'm at kind of stage in life. I don't know that I would have done that when I'm 30, but at the stage of my life, well, if she looks like Dolly Parton and she's got Donald Trump's bank account, yeah, I think we could make that work.
Yeah, you could work it out. I bet you could. All right, we're going to work out some of the news, and we'll be back with Jay and ask him some legal questions coming from you on the membersnutrition.com super text line. That's next, 615-737-9986. That's the number. Get your questions in here for our legal man, Jay St. Clair. It's 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Yes, it is exactly 1:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Cloudy conditions, 82 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast in a couple of moments. Part of Texas has been rattled by a series of earthquakes in the last 24 hours. ABC's Jim Ryan felt one of them this morning. He's up in North Texas.
At 9:28 Central Time this morning, people here in Dallas-Fort Worth felt it. A rolling of the ground that lasted about 15 seconds and was followed about 12 minutes later by a much smaller aftershock. The U.S. Geological Survey puts the stronger one at a magnitude of 5.0, centered near the tiny West Texas town of Hermleigh, about 200 miles from here. Today's quakes followed a much weaker one that shook the same area yesterday.
Now, out west, red flag fire warnings remain in place today in Northern California, where a large fire continues to chew through forest land. Alex Stone, he is in California.
134 buildings have been destroyed in what's called the Park Fire. How many of those were homes is not yet clear to firefighters. In 2 days, over 164,000 acres have burned. The fire exploding sometimes 4,000 acres an hour. Firefighters had a tiny bit of containment, and now that is gone, dropping to 0% surrounded. Flames continue to actively burn.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, as I am apt to do when Jay St. Clair is on with us. I'm going to violate my own word. When I said we were going directly to your questions, I have come up. Well, you know what? I take that back, Jay. This actually, we're gonna say that this comes from our good friend and regular listener Richard, because Richard is the one that made me aware of this particular case that I'm about to bring up to you, that I want to talk to you about. You ready, Jay? Hey, Bell, put Jay back on. Is he there?
Yeah, he should be on.
Oh, is he not? Hello? I can't hear him. Uh-oh. We got muted somehow. Well, I'm gonna while we figure that out, Bell, just talk into my ear, talk on the radio, and let me know when we perhaps got him back. I'm going to give you the details of this case. According to the Ohio Supreme Court, customers who order boneless chicken wings should not expect boneless chicken wings to be free of bones. That, according to the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio. Customers cannot expect boneless chicken wings to be free of bones. In a 4-3 decision ruled on yesterday, the Ohio Supreme Court rejected claims by a restaurant patron who suffered serious medical complications when he got a bone stuck in his throat while eating boneless chicken wing. You there, Jay?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I don't know how much of this you've heard, but loyal listener Richard has brought this court case to our attention that I'm describing to the listening audience, and I want your take on this.
Yeah, you mean Judge Richard.
Well, I was just going to say Richard, but you said it, so Judge Richard, yes. Michael Berkheimer was dining with his wife and friends at a wing joint in Hamilton, Ohio, and had ordered his usual boneless wings with Parmesan garlic sauce. He felt a bite-sized piece of meat go down the wrong way. A few days later, he was feverish, couldn't keep food down. Eventually went to the emergency room where a doctor discovered a long, thin bone had been inside of his throat and torn his esophagus, caused an infection. Berkheimer sued the restaurant, Wings on Brookwood, saying that the restaurant failed to warn him that so-called boneless wings might have bones. In a 4-3 decision, this is why people hate lawyers. I mean, I'm telling you, what I'm about to tell you is why people hate lawyers. In a 4-3 decision, and the courts, in a 4-3 decision, the Supreme Court said Thursday that boneless wings refers to a cooking style, and that Berkheimer should have been on guard after ordering boneless wings that they might have had bones in them. The court in this is, and I'll give credit for Richard saying this because he's right. This is my favorite part. Yeah. A diner reading, this is according to Justice Joseph T. Dieters, who, writing for the majority, said, a diner reading boneless wings on a menu should no more believe that the restaurant is warranting the absence of bones in the items than believe that the items were made from chicken wings, just as a person eating chicken fingers would know that he had not been served fingers.
What? You mean chicken fingers really aren't chicken fingers?
Believe it or not, Jay. Well, but here's the deal. It's different. People know that chicken fingers are describing the style of the meat. Boneless, the design is that we serve chicken wings. They have bones in them. Well, people didn't like having to pick all that off, so restaurants began serving what they described as boneless wings. Jay, if you were on this court, would you have ruled in this fashion?
I'd have to look at the law. Where was it, in Ohio?
Uh-huh.
I don't know that they're guilty of fraud by calling them boneless. The question is, did they not exercise due care in preparing the meal? I mean, for example, if you're eating a hamburger and it's got a bone in it, then I think you got some grounds to sue the restaurant.
Okay.
Because you don't expect bones in hamburger. I mean, they should have caught the fact that there was a bone in there before they served it. So but see, I don't know if they claim negligence if they just claim fraud.
Well, what about, and pardon me, counselor, for interrupting, but what about the point where they say boneless?
Yeah, well, but what they're really saying is this is not really a chicken wing.
I mean, that's true. Right.
That's what they're saying. They're not saying it doesn't have any bones. They're saying this is not a chicken wing.
It's a chicken nugget, is what it is.
That's right, and that's right. But
I guarantee you, though, Jay, after this lawsuit, I bet you restaurants will begin. I mean, if I were a restaurant owner, I'd just start calling them something different.
Well, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the lawsuit that was filed a few years back. Somebody sued Subway and said their foot-long sandwiches were not a foot long. They're 11.8 inches long. Well, that's not a foot. So they're committing fraud.
Well, I like this portion of the article by Associated Press as well. The dissent, and it's solely because it's one of my favorite words in the English language. Here we go. The dissenting justices called the majority opinion utter jabberwocky.
Ooh.
And said a jury should have been
Whoa. Don't make me have to use the dump button.
Well, that's what, hey, this is coming from a court of law, Bell. Judge said that, so I think it's allowable. Said a jury should have been allowed to decide whether the restaurant was negligent in serving Berkheimer a piece of chicken that was advertised as being boneless. The question must be asked, does anyone really believe that the parents in this country who feed their young children boneless wings or chicken tenders or chicken nuggets or chicken fingers expect bones to be in the chicken? Justice Michael Donnelly said, of course they don't. When they read the word boneless, they believe that it means without bones, as all sensible people do.
I have a little different take. I think I think the analogy to a chicken nugget. If I were a judge, I would decide this case exactly the same as if it were a chicken nugget, because people know that's what it really is, or if they don't, they should. Is it negligent to serve a chicken nugget with bones in it? See, I don't know the facts. I don't know how that happens. In other words, do they make them there, or do they just get them bought in by the bag?
Right.
Or is there reason to believe there might be bones in chicken nuggets? So that's where you got to know the facts of the case, and I just don't know the facts.
All right. Well, let's get to a few questions while we have a little time with Jay St. Clair, our legal man. Question for Jay. Is there any way to find out if a person did a trust when you don't know who the attorney was? Is there a way to notify the attorneys in the state of Tennessee to see if anybody did want? And I'm just asking the question as it's written here. So is there a way to find out if a person has a trust if you don't know who the attorney is, I guess, for the person?
Well,
you understand that, Jay?
I think, but I mean, I'd start with asking the person. And I'm guessing here the person is either deceased or is not able to communicate. So I mean, no, there's no registry anywhere. They're not public documents. So I mean, you got to ask the person, and then if that person's not able to speak, then ask other family members. But no, that's a toughie. I mean, that's like saying, is there any way to know whether somebody's got $1 million buried in their backyard?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only way to know is to ask the person.
Right.
And if not, then you can get a metal detector, I guess. But no, the answer to that is there is no registry anywhere. It's not a public document. It's not like real estate deeds, where they're recorded at the courthouse. Trusts aren't done that way. So the answer is no, other than asking the person. And if that person is not, you can't communicate with that person, then you got to ask family members and friends. And that'd be bankers or other people that knew that person.
Mm-hmm. 1385 writes in and says, "Hey, Matt, I have a question for Jay. My wife's father died of 5 different cancers." That's very sad. He was at Camp Lejeune for 1.5 years. Now, we've heard a lot about Camp Lejeune over the years.
Right.
They just filed their case. Does Jay have any idea about how long this process will take? My wife is torn up every time she thinks about it, rightly so, I guess. But she is the beneficiary. Any idea? I mean, yeah, it's going to take a long time, I would expect.
Years.
Yeah.
A lot longer than you expect it to last, sir, or that you want it to last. That's just the legal system, and it works slowly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, in this situation, and I don't pretend to know all of the particulars, Jay, I just know what I see on television. I think there's, a fairly broad admission that something went wrong here, right, in terms of the water table or things leaching into the water table.
What happened is Congress funded something, for a long time because it's federal property and sovereign immunity kicks in. And so Congress created a fund for people to apply. And then I think there are certain facts that have to be established to apply for that. And, now there's all these like the oil spill lawyers, from a few years ago. A bunch of lawyers are handling it. And that just takes time, man.
Well, it takes time, mainly, in my opinion, because lawyers work by the hour.
Yeah, well, we're people too, man. We got to eat just like everybody else.
That one was just for Jay, by the way. 1751 says, "Hey Matt, I believe Jay said last week that he would see if there was an update on the non-compete issue. This is something that came up earlier in the year. Just describe to people what came up earlier in the year, and then let us know if there's an update, Jay."
Yeah, so the Federal Trade Commission has proposed a rule, actually issued a final rule that would outlaw all non-competes in the United States, man. It's a really big deal for people who have non-competes. Mm-hmm. The effective date of that is September 4, 2014. And I know this listeners called in a couple times about this, and so I did my research. So it's not yet effective. It's September 4 is the effective date. A judge in Texas has enjoined it. And said that the FTC did not have the authority to do that. But that injunction is not nationwide, so it's not going to apply in Tennessee. A judge just recently in, I think, Pennsylvania refused to enjoin it. So there's no change right now, man. It is what it is right now. But when September 4 rolls around, unless some judge has not issued a nationwide injunction, that rule will be in effect. So for those people who have non-competes, that may be a good time to look to, if you're wanting to change jobs, that'd be a good time to do it and not have to worry about your non-compete. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's the only time it ever becomes it's a problem is if you leave and go to work in competition with your employer.
I've got a little bit of an update on this previous question about the trust. The individual 4091 writing in says that this person is deceased and that she did not want her family getting her stuff. So, I mean...
Well, that's a toughie. Right? So there might be buried treasure somewhere,
right,
man. But unless you got a treasure map...
Right.
Then you just got to look for clues. There's no book you can go to. There's no registry you can go to. You just got to. It's like the movie National Treasure, right? You seen it? I watched that movie recently. It's a great movie.
Old Nick Cage, right?
Yeah.
Nick Cage. It reminds me a little bit of unclaimed money that the government has just sitting somewhere.
That's right.
And, they're not coming to look for you.
Here. No, and it actually does something that's called escheats. Isn't that funny? Escheats.
Uh-huh.
And so let's say somebody dies and has a bank account and the family doesn't know about it. Well, after a certain period of time, I think like 7 years or so, if nobody claims the money, the bank actually turns that over to the state.
Huh.
It escheats to the state. And then, actually that's one thing you could do, sir, is check if you're in Tennessee. This will give me some homework. Maybe if we got another break, I can do this. I would get in touch with the department within the state of Tennessee that handles escheat property and I'll see if I can get that contact information if I'm right.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take a quick time out. Maybe we have a minute or two on the other side, and we'll try to get that information. Jay, hang in there. It's 51 after the hour. We're at Twin Creeks Marina. Back in a moment on the Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Donald Trump and the Israeli prime minister met today in Florida. We'll have that story. Also, a firefighting plane goes missing in Oregon. And an alleged neo-Nazi accused of assault at a Nashville bar. Well, that now moves to a grand jury. We'll have that and more at 2 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. J. It is almost 2 o'clock. We've only got about a minute or so left with our man Jay St. Clair, but we wanted to get him back here to see if he had it. Jay, I think I was mishearing you because you were talking about the state and relationship with our money, and I thought you were saying we cheat. Is that what you were saying, we cheat?
No, that's you're thinking of the law firm. Do we cheat them and how?
Any update? I mean, so this idea of the trust and what was the phrase you used? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cheat, but let's just use it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite legal words. But let's say it's unclaimed property. So here's what the person needs to do: get into touch with the Treasury Department of the state of Tennessee. I'm looking at the website right now. Just Google unclaimed property, Treasury, Tennessee, and you'll find it. They have a website. Looks pretty user-friendly. And it only going to help is this. Let's say that the money is sitting in a bank. Well, after a certain period of time, with no activity, the bank, by law, is required to give that to the state because of the escheat laws. And then now the state is holding it, and they will help match up the money to the rightful owners. So It's not a guaranteed thing. It's only if enough time has passed that the bank or whoever holding the money is turned into the state. So Google unclaimed property, Tennessee Treasury, and that'll get you started.
Jay, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for all of the great answers, and thank you for your friendship. Maybe we can get together next Thursday. I'm off next Friday, Jay. I am looking at real estate property in Tunica, Mississippi. I might see friends over there. I don't know.
Yeah. I think you need a lawyer on that trip. But yeah, let's try to talk next Thursday.
We'll do it. There's Jay St. Clair, our legal correspondent, life consultant, my great friend, and sometime gambling buddy. We got another hour to go on this Friday edition from Twin Creeks Marina in Winchester, Tennessee on Timms Ford Lake. Come by and see us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good afternoon. It's 1 minute past 2 p.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. There's a little bit of sun peeking through the clouds. 83 degrees on Music Row. A full forecast is coming up. Speaking to reporters after his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today, former President Donald Trump saying he would be the president to establish peace in the Middle East and that his relationship with Netanyahu is good.
It was never bad. I would say it was always good. No president has done what I've done for Israel, and we've always had a very good relationship.
Moving now out west, where crews in Oregon are searching for a missing firefighting plane. Alex Stone is in Los Angeles.
A single small engine air tanker that was being used by the Bureau of Land Management to fight a lightning-sparked fire in Grant County, Oregon near the Falls Fire went missing while flying to a new spot fire. Contact was lost on Thursday evening. Search efforts have been underway, including with crews from the Oregon National Guard using night vision overnight. There has been no sign of the small plane.
Right now in Nashville, the case of an alleged neo-Nazi accused of assaulting a downtown bar employee is now headed to the grand jury.
29-year-old Ryan McCann of Ontario, Canada, was in court yesterday to face charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and disorderly conduct. The judge sent the case to the grand jury to decide if there's enough evidence to show that a crime was committed. Police say McCann got into a fight while marching with a group of people carrying Nazi flags at 3rd and Broadway. The bar employee, 19-year-old Diego Buck, was hit in the face and ribs with one of the flags. Buck was also arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting police. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
All right, friends, here we are. Here we go. It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show underway for the final hour of the week on episode 619. Lovely to have you with us. Whatever you might be doing right now, we thank you for listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and I thank you for listening to the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Allow me to start the last hour of the week with a few pleasantries, and then I want to get into a few of your telephone calls, and I have a specific question. I want to beg of you to call us up at some numbers that I'm about to give you, and answer a question for me, and I'll give you the question here in just a moment. Obviously, it's a Friday. We're at Timms Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina, and you can come by and see us. The Drafts and Watercrafts restaurant is right down the way for us. We're on the dock. I don't know why it is, but they have a feeding station right here for the fish and the turtles. And do people pick sides? Are you listening to me down there? Oh, no, she's talking to somebody. I mean, I'm wondering if people pick sides, because I was kind of picking sides with the turtles. So the fish and the turtles here on the dock, they've got the fish food and the turtle food, or whatever it is, these pellets in what is a bubble gum machine. And then you put your quarter in, and you get a handful of fish food or turtle food, or however you want to call it. And then you can throw the pellets out. Well, the fish and the turtles know. And they hang out around the station where the fish food is. They're like little socialists, really. They learn that they can get freebies, and so they gather where the freebies are, and they wait for the freebies to come. And then, we, good-hearted people like you and me, much like we do with, socialists, we feel sorry for them, and so we give them a little something. And I told the story years ago. This actually reminds me very much of the story that I told, because these fish are unappreciative. I think the turtles still have a level of appreciation, or at least from an anthropomorphic standpoint, that I give them a certain level of appreciation that I don't give the fish, because the fish, the big carp or whatever they are, they just seem like big jerks. And they, jump over the turtles and then jump out of the water trying to get to the food. When the turtle, I'm clearly trying to give some turtle food to the turtle, and here come the fish jumping over the turtles. The story that I like to tell, years ago, I had an office in Birmingham, Alabama. I was not in management in any sort, but I had my first office when I first got to Birmingham, Alabama, to do talk radio back in 2002. And for whatever reason, the building was big enough, and they had enough rooms and enough desk space that I was offered the opportunity to have an office. And so I was decorating my office, and my wife, at the time, she gave me this lovely glass bowl, and filled the bowl with butterscotch and peppermint and spearmint candies and chocolate candies. And obviously there were more butterscotch and peppermint and spearmint than there were chocolate, but they were all mixed up there in the bowl. And the stated purpose was that you're not a very likable person, so we need something to get the people to like you, and these candies will get the people to like you. Ha, ha, ha. So, and I noticed how appreciative people were when they came into my office and they saw the bowl of candy. Ooh, can I have a piece of candy? Of course you can. And here you go. And they would pick out either a butterscotch or a peppermint or a spearmint or the chocolate. And the chocolate was always the favorite candy. So the chocolate went away first. So I noticed it was almost like a little welfare experiment that we went through, where first out, for the first several weeks, even first couple of months, the people were very appreciative of the candies, and they were thankful to get the candies. And then I noticed a change in tone because the chocolate ran out first, and we were unable to regularly repair the absence of chocolate in the candy bowl. Before you know it, people were walking in, and they would look at the candy bowl, and they would say, well, where's the chocolate? Why is there no chocolate? Well, you got to get on that. You've got to repair the chocolate. And I thought, this is amazing. A month ago, there was no candy at all. A month ago, the candy didn't exist. Now, and then 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, or even a week ago, you guys were very appreciative of this candy that you're paying nothing for. of this item that did not exist a month ago that you're paying nothing for. I'm just thinking all of this to myself, right, as I watch this microcosm of a social experiment go on. And it occurred to me that this is what socialism produces. It produces a greedy population that has no expectation to work for anything given to them. And then when those circumstances change by which certain items can't be given to them anymore for whatever reason, they get mad. They're not paying anything for it. They're not paying anything into the system. And this was not present to them. It was not given to them at any point in the past. But because they don't get it exactly the way they want it now, they start getting angry about it. Where's my chocolate? Why not more chocolate? We need more chocolate in here. Well, a month ago, you didn't have anything. That's the way socialism changes the psychology of the human being. And I'm watching this. That's the truth. And I'm watching
Hey, Matt.
this. Yes. Hey, Bell.
When you get done with the story, how about we take some phone calls?
Hey, Bell. How are you?
I'm good.
That's Bell's way of telling me he's back from the bathroom, everyone. Right before we came back on the air, if you want to do it, we'll do it, Bell. Right before we came on the air, I said, hey, I'm gonna grab some telephone calls here. I'm going to ask people to call us up and tell us what the biggest moment of the week was. And he said, well, wait, I got to run to the bathroom. Wait before you ask for the telephone calls. I'll tell you when I'm back. And so now Bell's back.
None of that's true. I've been sitting here the whole time.
I hope everything came out.
Never had that conversation.
615-737-9986. Here's the question. Because I want to change, yes, we could talk about the pro-Hamas protesters getting a pass in Washington, D.C. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not, because the mainstream media not telling you, but most of the protesters that defiled American monuments, most of the protesters that defiled property that was not theirs, that ran roughshod over federal property, that burned property that belongs to the United States citizenry, those people aren't going to be charged. Did you know that? They charged every single human being that stepped one toe into the United States Capitol on January 6th. And they're not charged. They're dropping all the charges. They only arrested 23 people the other day when Netanyahu was in the United States Capitol. And now they have decided to drop the charges on most of these individuals, saying that, well, it was mostly, quote-unquote, peaceful protest. But here's what we're going to do. I know. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. Now, we can talk about that. It's a complete double standard on the part of the mainstream media, and a double standard when it comes to J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris as well, and we'll discuss that here in just a moment as well. But I want to throw open the phone line, 615-737-9986, by asking the most significant event in the month of July. The most significant event in the month of July. Was it the renomination of Donald Trump to be the 47th president of the United States of America? Was it the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life? Thankfully, the unsuccessful assassination attempt. You can make a combination of one or two or all, any number of these events, but the history-making nature of what we've seen over the last month. Oftentimes when we are in the midst of history, it's difficult to understand the nature and the force of the history that we're in the middle of.
Hey, Matt.
But I don't think that's the case right now. So 615-737-9986. Yes, Bell.
Have we ever previously had a situation where a candidate who was all in for re-election bowed out the way Biden has?
Not the timing is a little bit awkward because, yes, there was a time when primary states did not hold their primaries until a little bit later on in the summer. And I forget exactly when. I'm going to look it up. Lyndon Baines Johnson, in the spring of 1968, in the height, the Vietnam War was a very unpopular conflict. We call it a war. It was not really a war, so all of you language purists on that front, I apologize. It was a conflict. The Vietnam conflict was really getting heated up, and it was going pretty hard and heavy in 1968. And, after Johnson said that I'm not going to send American boys to do the thing that Asian boys ought to be doing, he promptly sent American boys to do the thing that Asian boys would not do. And we know how Vietnam worked out. So it was a very unpopular conflict that we were in. And Johnson, I want to say in April of 1968, Bell. months sooner, but during the year of the election being held in November, announced that I will not seek, nor will I accept the nomination of my party for president of the United States of America. Now, there are many that believe that Johnson clearly saw the writing on the wall. I was not around back then. That's a little bit before my time. Bell, were you around back then?
Yeah, but I was.
You were not into politics back then?
I was not into anything that wasn't the mobile above my crib. So Johnson was actively in re-election mode and then bowed out.
He was on the ballot. You know what? Before I get ahead of my skis, I'm going to look it up. I know that he was considered to be the nominee until he refused the nomination and said that he would not be running again. As I look it up here, it was in April of that year. Let's see. Presidency. Johnson ascended to the presidency upon the death of John F. Kennedy, as we know. And then he ran for president in 1964. And he won he assumed the presidency amid what was considered to be a healthy economy, and then he focused his attention on more domestic side stuff, and then allowed the escalation of the Vietnam conflict in August of 1964, and that grew in prominence during his presidency throughout the course of the years 64 to 68. So, he also did the Great Society and all these things. And I'm trying to find
He was the war on poverty, too, right? That was part of his thing?
Oh, yeah. Great Society he declared a war on poverty. Nixon then eventually declared a war on drugs. And we've lost both of those wars, by the way. Or certainly, as much as they're still ongoing, we are losing them. But, the bottom line, your answer, without getting into too much detail, yes. He was the presumed nominee. He was not the official nominee. They had not had their convention. Robert F. Kennedy was working the states and nipping at his heels. And when he bowed out, it opened the door for Robert F. Kennedy to be the nominee until, obviously, Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated. And I want to say that was in June of 1968. So Johnson bows out in April. Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated in June of that year, and that opened it up. And was that Humphreys? I always get them mixed up. I get Muskie, and I get some of these in the 1960s mixed up. It might have been Ed or McGovern. Maybe it was McGovern. I think it was McGovern that eventually lost to Nixon. One way or the other, someone will be able to tell me. 19 after the hour, Sandra and Vincent will talk to you about the story in the month of July that is going to have the most lasting impact on the American people, whether it be the nomination of Donald J. Trump to be the 47th president of the United States of America, the assassination attempt on his life, the removal of himself, Joe Biden, as a candidate for the presidency despite being the presumptive nominee. All of those things on the table. 615-737-9986. We'll get to your phone calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Donald Trump and the Israeli Prime Minister met today in Florida. We'll have some of Mr. Trump's comments. And this weekend, it's back-to-school shopping time. And if you go this weekend, it'll cost you just a little bit less than normal. We'll have those stories at 2:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
There's Jay Harper. My name is Matt Murphy. We're at Twin Creeks Marina in Winchester on Timms Ford Lake. Come out and see us. A little rain shower moving through. It's cooling things off quite nicely. We're right outside of Drafts and Watercrafts Restaurant. Would love to see you this afternoon. We're here until 3 o'clock. I have some of the deets, Bell. I looked it up because I was curious. I did not have all of the details on this, but it's actually a pretty interesting story. We'll get to that in a moment. Get to your telephone calls. The biggest story of July, I mean, the history-making nature of this July, just incredible. It's our last Friday together before the calendar turns to August. Before you know it, it will be November. 615-737-9986. That's the telephone number. It's the membersnutrition.com super text line. Sandra is in Cookeville. And, Sandra, you are first up. Thank you for calling. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I think we've had so many significant things in the month of July that it's hard to pick just one. But the one I think that's going to have the most impact on our future is the fact that we may end up, or there's a possibility that we'll end up with Harris, not only as her name being on the ticket, but there's a possibility she could end up being the president of this country. And I fear for my grandchildren and their children in the future with such a radical leftist for president that I can't sleep at night. I mean,
I hope you're not losing sleep.
Oh, I am, and a lot of people are, I believe. I mean, it's just horrible. With the things I've heard her say on interviews, it's hard to believe that someone such as an already vice president who should have some common sense would say the things and have the kind of answers that she does about the future of this country and the things that she wants to see happen.
Well,
it just blows my mind.
As frightening as that, Miss Sandra, the mainstream media's willingness and desire to whitewash her record and completely zero out her record and try to convince us that she has not taken these radical positions that she has clearly taken on so many of these important issues. They're all in on her. Here's my fear, and I'm not wagging my fingers, at my brethren on Super Talk or anywhere else in talk radio, because I'm right there with them. It is easy for those of us who have watched this woman in her career just absolutely dismiss her candidacy for president because she's so radical on so many issues. But I think it's a very dangerous thing to suggest that this election is over. And some of my brethren, I've talked to them offline, and they're like, it's over, man. There's no way that this woman, as radical as she is, can win the presidency. And we're watching, just in the first few days of her ascension to the throne, if you will, how the media is willing to just tell us that we're not to believe what we saw with our own eyes, that the border czar thing is just an easy example, Sandra, that we're supposed to not believe that Joe Biden put her in charge, despite the fact that we watched him in March of 2021 put her in charge. They're now saying that never happened.
Exactly. They're willing to tell blatant lies. And, the thing is, I've heard people say that, if you listen to a lie long enough, you're apt to believe it after a certain period of time. There's so many people that don't keep up with what's going on enough to know whether the media is lying about it or not. And they know they're lying. They know they are lying. And they don't blink an eye.
Well, you know who originally said that, Miss Sandra?
Who?
The quote is, "If you repeat a lie long enough and loud enough, it becomes the truth." And that was said by Joseph Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister of the Nazi Party under Adolf Hitler. That's who said that. So I mean, but sadly, as much as it pains me, and thank you for your call. I appreciate you. I've got to scoot along, but thank you, Miss Sandra. Sadly, Joseph Goebbels was not incorrect, especially in the modern era, that if they repeat something long enough and loud enough and they don't allow the truth to get to the table to counter the lie, then people start to believe it. Because if it weren't the truth, somebody would be here saying it's not the truth, right? Well, they don't let those people come to the table. They don't let those people get in front of the cameras at CNN. They don't let those people get in front of the cameras at MSNBC. I saw a Republican, and I forget who it was. I think it was Ben Domenech or Demonomich or whatever his name is. He used to work for the Federalist. I think he works for somebody else now. He was on one of these talking head performative shows on CNN. And he said, well, of course, Joe Biden put her in charge of the border. And then immediately you heard the host say, no, he didn't. He's like, what do you mean? No, he didn't. No. I'm like, yes, he did. It's on your network carried it. He said it. And by the way,
never happened.
And Ben did not say borders are. He said he put her in charge. No, he didn't. Never happened. I mean, immediately. And that's what we are going to see over the next 3 months. So as much as it frightens me now, what happens when they continue the reclamation and rehabilitation of candidate zero? Candidate zero, by the way, being Kamala, because zero represents the number. Thank you. The number of votes she's received. It's 2:31. More of your calls coming up on this Friday edition of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We have some clouds and some sun. We're at 83 degrees. A weather forecast coming up. Speaking to reporters after his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu today, former President Trump saying he would be the president to establish peace in the Middle East and that his relationship with Netanyahu is good. Here's Trump when asked about the hostage situation.
That's a very tough situation, the hostages. They have to be given back immediately because there can be no way that they're in good shape. They're obviously not being treated properly.
It's a good weekend for the back-to-school shopping. Tennessee's traditional sales tax holiday on clothing, school supplies, and computers is underway now and will end at just before midnight on Sunday. During this time, clothing, school supplies up to $100 and computers costing up to $1,500 may be purchased tax-free. Items must be purchased for personal use and not for business or trade. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was just talking to Pamela here on the lovely deck of Twin Creeks Marina. Come
Pamela
out and see
who?
us. Listener Pamela from Winchester.
I thought you
she
meant
and her
Fur.
husband No, not Pamela Fur. Redheaded stranger. I hadn't seen her in a month of Sundays. Drafts and Watercrafts is the restaurant down at the end of the pier, and then we're kind of midway. You'll know us when you see our four-legged protector, Penny, who's on the deck there. So come out and see us. We're here till just after 3 o'clock, thereabouts. We'd love to talk with you, and we are talking to folks on the phone, the biggest moment in July. I want to really quick, because I promised to do this. I did not know some of this information. Belle, this kind of goes back to your question about the 1968 presidential election. I was unaware of this. Johnson was concerned about his health, and he was concerned about the ability to win. And apparently, according to the sources that I'm looking at, and part of this is Wikipedia, so you can take that part with a grain of salt, but Johnson initially was going to announce that he was not running for re-election during his State of the Union address in 1968. He ultimately decided not to do that. He had served less than 24 months during the Kennedy, the last of the Kennedy years, so he was eligible to run for re-election, although he had already served one full term. But on March 12th, McCarthy won 42%. Eugene McCarthy won 42% of the primary vote in New Hampshire to Johnson's 49%. So even though Johnson won by a skinny margin, it opened his eyes to the schism that was the Democrat Party because of the Vietnam War. And he was supportive of the Vietnam War. There was a huge anti-war contingent. Robert F. Kennedy was a little bit a part of that. McCarthy was a part of that. So he felt like he was losing control of the party. And this was the interesting part, though. So there were various factions, including Johnson, who ultimately would be represented on the ticket by Hubert Humphrey, who was the nominee. Then there was McCarthy, who was anti-war. There was Robert F. Kennedy, who had cobbled together support amongst Catholics and the African-American community. And then George Wallace ran in that race in 1968 as well and did quite well, got almost 10 million votes.
Had he already been shot at that point?
No, that was later on. That was in the 1970s. That was 72. So Johnson knew that he couldn't win the war by the election day and did not feel like that he could unite the party enough to win re-election. Plus, apparently he was worried about his failing health. And this is what was interesting. In 1967, Lyndon Baines Johnson commissioned an actuarial study that studied his personal health that predicted that he would die at the age of 64. Do you know how old he was when he died, Bill?
64.
64. So they accurately predicted that. So he didn't believe, and this is interesting, he didn't believe, not only was he concerned that he couldn't win, he didn't believe that he could serve an entire term. And so, spurred by his health issues, he, at the beginning of April, said that the famous line, I got it here, I shall not seek and will not accept the nomination of my party for another term as your president. The next day, his approval rating went from 36% to 49%. Lyndon Johnson was the last president to decline the opportunity to be renominated until Joseph R. Biden.
Well, renominated versus you really need to go.
Yeah, pushed out versus, I mean, one was a decision, one presumed. Say what you will about Johnson, nobody made decisions for LBJ except LBJ, right? LBJ, the famous stories about LBJ is that if he had somebody in the White House and he wanted to show him who was boss, do you know what he did, Bell?
I've heard this story, but I don't remember it.
He would talk to people in the Oval Office, and he would say, "No, I want to continue the conversation. Come with me." And they would walk off the side of the Oval Office, and he had a bathroom there, and he would go to the bathroom, and he would make them stand in the bathroom with him while he went to the bathroom. And they say that it was a way of him, almost asserting dominance,
right,
over the person that he was with. That he made them stand there while he went to the bathroom, which is just, weird. Jimmy is next up in Kentucky with a thought on the big stories out of the month of July. Jimmy, how are you?
Pretty good, Mr. Murphy. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
Yes, sir. I wanted to call and, in a way, thank you and thank WTN for what y'all have done. I'm a 10-year veteran. I'm still with the Kentucky National Guard. But when I got home in 2020 from my deployment in Iraq at Al-Assad Air Base, I started working with my dad, and he was listening to your show. And at that point in time, Uncle Phil was still on, and he was still alive, doing everything great that he was doing. So after years now, 4 years almost, listening to y'all, I've noticed political change. My mind has been open, and, I've been able to open my eyes in a way to y'all.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for your service and your continued service to the United States of America, Jimmy. Secondarily, I am here for you, and I thank you because without you and without people like you, I'd have to go find a real job for a living. And I absolutely love what we do on a day-to-day basis, and it is my honor and my privilege to get an opportunity. I know that we don't get to talk personally like this on a day-to-day basis, but it is my honor and privilege to get to talk to folks like you every day.
Yes, sir. And what I wanted to drop real fast on the July conversation that you're having is the business that I work with. I do a lot of welding for our military. So outside of National Guard service that I have now, I get to support us as a whole on a civilian side. But ever since Donald Trump came back as a candidate, our business actually picked up almost at I want to say it was like a 45% rate for stuff that we send to the military. And then right when President Biden said, hey, I'm dropping out, we picked up another 15% rate.
Imagine that.
Yes.
What do you think that means?
That was something. I think that means that President Trump, when he's elected, he's going to say, hey, we're going to put your foot in your hind end if you don't stop, and I have the power to do so.
Yeah, I think so, too. I think that's kind of the bell cow, as they say. Thank you, Jimmy, for the call, by the way. We appreciate you, appreciate your service. That's a little bit of a prediction on the part of that market force, believing that Donald Trump has this. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. I can't imagine that the media has the ability in the 3 months left before the election to change the narrative so much that we don't learn about Kamala Harris and her record. The reclamation, I say, Bell, of candidate zero. The reclamation of candidate, thank you. The borders are, this is in like 5 days.
My kingdom for a touchscreen.
The border, did you say that to me or to everybody?
Everybody.
The border czar deal. They're trying to reclaim the idea that she never was on the side of defunding the police, which isn't so. They're trying to lie about the fact that she promoted the funding of a freedom fund that allowed criminals to get out of jail that went on to kill people, which is a fact. They're trying to repair that. They're trying to claim that she never said that she wanted health care for all, including illegal aliens. She said that. They're trying to repair the fact that she was pro-Palestinian, by extension pro-Hamas. They're trying to repair that. And on it goes. They're trying to repair the fact that she wasn't involved in the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. She was, as vice president. So all of these things, they're trying to reclaim all of this and repair all of this in real time when we have her on video over the last. This wasn't 10 years ago or 12 years ago. Now, some have said to me, liberals, well, Donald Trump used to have a position on certain things, and now he has changed. Donald Trump's position on these issues evolved over 30 years. Donald Trump was involved in real estate in New York City. If you don't think that Donald Trump was smart enough to call himself a Democrat while he was involved in real estate in New York City, you don't know the Donald Trump that we know. Of course he was a Democrat in New York City while he was involved in real estate and involved in those types of things. The country changed and the man changed over time. We're talking about a woman's position 2 years ago on these issues that they're trying to repair. All right, quickly, to as many as we can get to, ask and ye shall receive. Jim is next in Nashville with a thought on Election Day. Hello, Jim.
Yeah, hey, Matt. You and I met about a year and a half ago over at the Bo Patriot Brewery. Enjoyed meeting you that day.
Oh, I enjoyed meeting you too.
And I was the Santa Claus-looking guy. That's how come, Matt, I can remember a few dynamics of the 68 election. There are some similarities, with a candidate of sitting president stepping down, but I think there's some crucial differences between Johnson then and Biden now. As far as I know, Matt, there was absolutely no movement in the Democratic Party or probably even in the Republican Party to get him to step down as the candidate. I think that came pretty much as a shock to everybody when Johnson made that declaration in April of that year that I'm not going to run. I think that was a shock. Whereas Biden stepping down, I don't think anybody is all that shocked.
Well, and he did it so early, and the positioning of the primaries was such where they had only had one primary, New Hampshire. And it sounds weird to us to say that in the modern era that they had only had one primary by the beginning of April. Right. I mean, primaries happen in April and May and June and on into the summertime. So, it was only one primary down when he made the announcement. So it wasn't as if the party usurped the will of the people. The people just had to pick somebody else in those states that had not held the vote, right?
And Matt, another important distinction, at least in my mind, is that Biden has immediately anointed Kamala Harris. As far as I know, Johnson left that up to the party, and Humphrey was anointed in the convention. Now, of course, there may be some parallels between the 68 Chicago convention and the one that we see this year. But I'm pretty sure that was done. The Hubert Humphrey thing was done in the convention, not Johnson saying, oh, by the way, here's who I want to run in my place.
Wow, great. I know that's some great history, and you're right on target. It's good to talk with you again. And come see us the next time you're out and about, Mr. Jim. We appreciate you.
Okay, Matt. Great to talk to you again. Bye-bye.
Good to talk to you as well. We won't be able to get to any more. I appreciate all of you participating in kind of a phone-centric hour, our last hour of the week. We'll be joined by Brian Wilson in mere moments, and we'll find out what's happening on the drive this afternoon between 3 and 7 as we broadcast from Twin Creeks Marina at Thames Ford Lake on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.